I'd like to welcome you guys to this week's report. Today is Thursday, August 1st. We are coming up on a new moon, and the weather looks pretty good in most areas. A little breezy on the outside. I don't think it's going to be a problem for sport boats, but smaller private boats might have some issues once you get outside of Catalina or 10 miles out, 15 miles off the coast. It's going to be blowing pretty much non-stop out of the west. It's not a lot of wind, but it's constant. I'm going to apologize in advance to all of you guys who get upset with my mouth breathing. I am I'm still in the middle of a very bad cold. I got sick on Monday morning, and I've just been completely wrecked here for the last 4 days, whatever it is. Starting to feel a little bit better. Thankfully, it's not COVID. Took the test a few times, but boy, this is not a great time of year to get a cold. Anyway, yeah, I apologize in advance for the way it sounds. Let's head for the Channel Islands. It was windy up there a lot this week, so not a lot of boats went to the islands. This weekend might be a good time to go. The weather looks okay. We got a new moon coming. These fish often, sea bass will often bite on that new moon. So hopefully the guys that get out there will get some. A couple of trips out of Santa Barbara Harbor aboard the Stardust, fished along the coast. One day, a half-day trip, they had sea bass, calico bass, halibut, barracuda, rockfish, you name it. Really good fishing. And on another trip, they loaded up on some really nice reds. So, even when the weather blows or the wind blows up there, you still have a good coastal fishing opportunities. And it's biting like a full-speed summertime up there, it looks like. So good for those guys. I'm going to change my coverage up a bit here today because the inshore and offshore stuff is getting kind of mixed up. So in that same zone up there, the gray light out of Ventura has had 2 or 3 trips this week and caught bluefin every trip. They've got fish to, I think, 180 pounds, everywhere from small school-sized ones and up. I saw they were going out today, I think, with some flying fish, so they may get a bunch of big ones, who knows. I don't know where those fish are. I took a look at the SST chart this morning. I could be wrong, but I think they're probably south of the northern Channel Islands as opposed to west of them, but who knows. I'm sure the guys up there are in the know. And if you're up there and you're running down towards that bight between Cat and Clemente, you're probably going to run over something on the way. Speaking of that, let's talk about the what I'm going to call the northern sector here today. That includes yeah. Here I am again. These colds do give you a bit of brain damage. I'll tell you what, I haven't taken any medicine or anything, but I'm reading notes here. I'm still spacing out. That includes Clemente and Catalina. It could also include San Nick and Santa Barbara Island, but I think the weather at Nick is going to be kind of a lot this weekend, and Santa Barbara, I don't like to talk about because it's a horrible place. Oh, by the way, I heard from my friend Tom Holland saying there was albacore caught 2 days in a row outside of Clemente out towards Nick. So he said he was going to check out some more stuff and get back to me today. I haven't heard anything back, but that's good. So it doesn't sound like a huge number of them, but there have been fish commercially caught outside of Conception and also above Nick, so I can't imagine why they wouldn't potentially slide down. The water's a bit cooler out there. Would be nice to see albacore moving back in, but it seems like every year we've gotten a few, handful here and there, so I don't know that that's going to be a thing, but yeah, something to keep in mind when you told me about that. I thought about it, especially with the way the bluefin are moving. When they were here back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the year those fish left, they all went west, and or northwest, I should say. They were up off the Channel Islands, Santa Rosa, and they were gone for the next 100 years, and right behind them came a bunch of great years of albacore fishing. So it'll be interesting to see if, when and if those fish leave, if that happens. I'm not saying they're going anywhere now, but it might be part of a bigger trend. So, speaking of that northern section, Clemente is still biting yellowtail. Big ones on the backside, dark, early morning, the squid zone. Smaller ones and mixed grade fish. Still some big ones in the front, but you get a little bit smaller fish there as well. Pretty consistent fishing. I don't think anybody's doing much other than just doing that in between bluefin fishing. I know the Fury, the Thunderbird, the Eldorado, the Freedom were all there fishing yellows this weekend. and during the week, and they had this weekend is here is Thursday. Sorry again. I'm not as mentally jammed up as I seem. I'm just having a tough video here, and I don't really edit, so that's you guys get the real me here anyway. Yeah, the fishing's good over there. The bass guys have not been fishing over there. It's been a little bit breezy, and I think a lot of I know that Benny Florentino fished cat the other day, and I really haven't heard a whole lot. I think a lot of guys are fishing tuna right now. So talking about that tuna, I mentioned a couple weeks ago that those fish that they saw on the front side in shallow water of Clemente might be some of the fish that historically, once those fish get off the west end of the Clemente there in the escarpment, a lot of them filter back through down. They hit whatever upper barrier there is with water temperature or bait supply, and then they make their way back down. And it seems like that's exactly what happened again here. All the fish, it seems like, are now stacked between the west end of Clemente, west end of Cat, and a little bit above and below there. And it's just a huge amount of fish. I saw a video from Eric Pilikia, who he flies a spotter plane for the Pilikia swordfish boat, sorry. And he said it's the most bluefin he's ever seen. So that stuff's all in there. It's all feeding on the surface because there's a lot of small bait there. A lot of surface activity, very exciting fishing. A lot of boats. That sound like Trump. A lot of boats. Anyway, they're catching it during the day. There's small fish, there's big fish. The sport boats are getting the smaller fish with a few bigger ones in the mix. I know the full day boats at 22nd Street got them the other day, the Native Sun and the Pursuit, and they had fish up to 80 pounds. They also got some nice yellows. I don't know if that was at the island before they went out and fished bluefin. I know there's some bigger yellows on kelp patties in that zone too. Freedom was out there. They had limits on a day and a half trip. Got big fish at night, got smaller fish during the day. They're eating sardines, acting like normal tuna. Thunderbird went out there. They had 17 fish for way too many lost hookups. But yeah, the sport boats are still doing really well at night. Going to get those fish on the jigs. I'm very happy there's something to be caught during the day now because it's a much more genteel way of fishing for them. I don't like sitting there rocking around all night. But the 4 and 6 pack boats are still loading up on mixed grade fish. I talked to Mitch, who runs the Blackfish. He had a trip on Tuesday, I think, and they had a smaller bluefin. They were eating live bait. Yeah, I'd say smaller, like 30, 40 pound fish. And they got a nice big yellowfin on a jig. Later in the week, they went out and fished with the Kite, and they got some good graded bluefin that way. I think they're out there again today. He sent me a little bit of video of them getting a kite bit, another one of them fighting fish and having foamers up.
Tried to. Bomber down! Bye, bye, bye! Bye, 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 bye! Spoon's in the way. Bight. Foam. Little foam. Oh, hey, there he is. What's up, dude? Oh, dude.
So the 4-pack Go Fast boats out of San Diego are up there fishing those bluefin as well. Ollie, who owns Beauty Outdoors and Local Knowledge TV show, and Brass Monkey Sport Fishing, if you're looking for a big fast center console to go on a bluefin charter on, they're pretty hard to beat. He'd be supporting me because he's indirectly my boss. He's been going up there. He actually had my actual boss out with him. And she got a nice yellowfin or bluefin. I'll see if I can find that picture. I didn't pull it. But they're just having really good fish and lots of foamers up everywhere. He sent me a couple of foamer videos here. While I wasn't able to go out and fish this week, I did spend some time this afternoon putting together a little video explaining the casting tackle we use for bluefin and yellowfin tuna when we're fishing with lures on the surface. I have a lot of private messages after I showed the video from a couple weeks ago on Mac out that yellowfin, and I'm always happy to answer questions. And I feel like if there's enough questions, it's worth having a special little video segment of it. So yeah, it's a few minutes. I talk about what I'm using, kind of techniques and tackle and all the other stuff. So you can watch that here. I'm getting a lot of questions about the tackle we're using to fish these bluefin and yellowfin tuna with surface lures. So I thought I'd break down the rods and reels, kind of go through the details and show what each one is. Starting on the lighter end, this is my setup for basically tuna up to about 80 pounds. If I can see them to smaller fish, I'm throwing this. We've caught fish up to close to 150 pounds on it, but it's not ideal for that situation. This is a rain shadow Judge series, A10 ML. It's almost 9 foot graphite composite rod. It's rated 20 to 40 pound test, which is not really indicative of what we're fishing with it. But what's nice about this rod is it has a real small diameter, and due to the carbon fiber that they have over the butt section. So it's got the glass tip, graphite rear section, and a carbon fiber overlay that allows the blank diameter to be smaller. This allows you to wrap this as basically a bass rod. So this can be a rod that we're throwing big hard baits for calico bass with, also yellowtail, and also throwing for 80 pound and under tuna ideally. This is matched up with this one has a Revo Toro Beast on it, but we're now fishing the Penn Fathom 400. That's Abu used to make saltwater reels down there made by Penn. They're owned by the same company. Very similar reels. We just had one rigged up, so I just grabbed that one. 65 pound braid and 80 or 100 pound leader. One of the things about this rod is very versatile blank. This is also the same blank, not wrapped in this configuration, that we use for our striped marlin casters, and that matched with like a size 25 narrow Fathom lever drag makes for a really nice marlin caster. But this is probably one of the most versatile rods here in Southern California for the type of fishing we do. We actually brought a couple of these, like I said, wrapped differently down to Mag Bay when we set the world record for the most marlin caught in a day, and those two rods probably caught over 100 fish. Held up just fine. Nice lightweight rod. Anyway, you might notice I'm wearing these gloves. A big consideration when we're fighting these fish is not the drag that the reel puts out, but the additional drag we're putting on the fish with our hands. And you probably saw in Matt's video a couple weeks ago, he was reaching up like this a lot, and he's not doing that to help lift, he's doing that to pinch the line against the handle to keep it from sliding out. And that allows you to go well past the amount of drag the reel can put out. On larger reels, you can put your thumb on the spool. The problem is with these bait casters, if you have your thumb on the spool and you move it wrong, you're going to pop that reel in free spool with a lot of pressure on it. So this is the AFCO Blue Fever hard bait 165 size. We got 2 fish on that the other day. Our other fish came on a Yosery popper, smaller one, 130 size. Both these are great baits. They have good hooks on them when you buy them, so you don't need to rig them special. I probably caught, I don't know, a dozen nice bluefin and yellowfin on this bait. It looks brand new still. So you don't have to spend a bunch of money to get a good bait. So for the next step up in size of fish, let's call this 80 to 150, maybe reasonably. We have another rain shadow rod. It's an 80 RCLB 80M, which is a. These are all live bait blanks. These first two, they're designed for live bait graphite composite. This one I think is rated to 30 to 50 or 25 to 50 or something like that. It's just 1 power heavier than, or half power heavier than the other rod, but it's a foot shorter. Match to the Penn Fathom 25 narrow 2-speed, and I have a Clear Choice popper on here. It's just stuck. You can see it here. This is the same rod I throw my subwalker on. We've caught fish at 200 in this rod, but it's not ideal. And we've gotten to the point now where we've gotten kind of choosy on what we cast to, because those real big ones are really not any fun on jigging tackle. Say with these reels, you know, you can use your thumb to clamp a spool down. I don't know if you can see it from this angle. We do a lot of that. We also pinch the foregrip, but that's a real key in getting these fish quickly. You have to not let them take line, and you get them in that confused state, and you catch them a lot faster. If you let them settle in and settle down, you're going to be on for a long time. And one of the reasons we get away with these smaller reels is because we don't ever really let the fish get very far from the boat. And it's worse, a bluefin can get up maybe 100, 120 feet while you're fighting if you stay on top of it. And from the moment we hook those fish, we keep the boat in a position to keep them either straight up and down or at a very slight angle to our advantage. So we might have 150 feet of line out once we get that fish settled in for its first run, the whole fight. So you don't need a big giant reel. You're better off with something small and easier to cast and something you can handle better. And that's 80-pound braid on there to 100-pound leader. The worst case scenario setup for me is this RCJB 84XH. This is 7-foot, extra heavy, rated 40 to 80 pound. This is the same rod we use for our swordfish caster. Different configuration, obviously. Penn Fathom 40, narrow 2-speed, 100-pound braid, 100-pound fluorocarbon leader, and as big a popper as I can find to put on there. This is the rod. It may only come out once a year, once every few years, but this is if I see those big fish, I'm throwing this in there and hoping I can jam one of their mouths open with a big popper like this and get the fish relatively quickly. A lot of those smaller poppers, subwalker stuff, they'll inhale that thing, it's in the roof of their mouth. They're not feeling it, they're not struggling with that. You're gonna get your butt kicked and you're probably gonna get bit off eventually. Like I said, I bring this, but to be honest with you, if I don't have somebody else on the boat, a young person wants to pull on a tuna that big, I'm just not gonna cast on it. One last consideration with all these rods. You can see these are spiral wrapped. It starts at the top, goes to the bottom like a spinning rod. What that does, I've talked about before, is when you're fighting a fish, the downward line pulling on the bottom of the guides here negates any side-to-side lateral strain from when you're trying to turn the handle. So you're not fighting with a reel that's cranking side to side when you're pulling it. You've all been there and seen the guys do it. Instead, it's self-centering, so it allows you to wind and it doesn't want to roll in your hands. It makes it a lot easier to fight fish. You don't need a gimbal, and makes it a whole lot easier. So if you're going to build rods to fish tuna with specifically, I'd go with that spiral wrap rod, especially if you're throwing hard bait set. The last component, and I have a slew of broken gaffs, bent gaffs, all manner of gaffs over the last few years that didn't really hold up. I recently got this Murata custom gaff. It's 8 feet long. It's really too big to have on my boat. I don't carry it unless I'm tuna fishing. I keep it in a rod holder like a rod. This makes a huge difference. It gives you a lot more reach power, especially getting these fish in quick. A lot of times they come hot and you get one shot of them. It's not always the best gaff. You get that shot of them, you're going to be on them for another half an hour. So we'll take that shot, and with this gaff being flexible, you're not going to break your gaff, you're not going to let the fish tear off, any of that other stuff. Especially we've had a few fish that we've gaffed that we get a pretty hot 100-pound plus fish and just get tooled by them. And even if they're not acting the way when we get them up, you don't get a 150-pound fish on it for 8 or 10 minutes. You get to the boat, it's still got a lot of spark left in it. Here we go, number 2. We lost the first one in color. This one's up to color now. Nice fish, subwalker. RCLB 80M. Briggs on it. Jimmy's ready to gaff it. All big ones here. We saw a fish over 200 coming up. There you go, buddy. That's a big fish.
One more time.
Nice and easy. One more time. Don't dig that far, Jimmy. You're gonna get ruined. One more time around.
You got him choked.
There we go.
Lay him over there. Please spool.
Tore out the gaff. Nope, still got it. You want another gaff, Jimmy? But it's definitely worth investing in. You can I order them through Murata Custom Gaffs. They make the best one in the market by far. I still carry an AFCO aluminum gaff as a secondary thing. A lot of times you get a bigger fish, you want 2 gaps in it. but definitely worth the money to get one of these big things here. So yeah, that's basically it. You know, you get yourself a pair of APCO fishing gloves, a gaff, spend about, I don't know, $3,000 on rods field set. Anyway, back to the report. So if you're watching one of my videos and you are interested in finding out some more about something, you can certainly leave a comment in the comment section. I get plenty of bad ones, might as well get some good ones as well. I try to respond to all of them. You can also contact me on Facebook at Eric Landesfeind and on Instagram at Landesfeind, Landesfeind. You can spell it like the Mickey Mouse song, Landesfeind. That's how I used to train the UPS man to spell my name when I worked for a printing company. So anyway, heading into the beach up on the north coast here. Not a lot of bass coverage that I've heard about. The fishing has been pretty good though. Oliver and I, oh darn it, he sent me some, I'll show you next week. He sent me some lead heads and swim baits, and I left them in the house. But he's got these baits that are called Cast Prodigy swim baits and Defiant jig heads. And it's a really nice quality of a swim bait. They got some with a blade on the back, and they got the lead heads have a spring lock. Let me get back to you on that next week when I actually have them to show you. I haven't had a chance to fish them yet. Maybe I will and then talk about it. But he's been fishing, having charters. They're fishing sand bass and calicos. He said still really good summertime fishing up here in the Huntington Beach area. You know, if you're looking for a bass guide, this is a guy with a lot of knowledge, real sharp angler, and he's on the water quite a bit. So a lot of, you know, one of the problems you have with a lot of the bass guys like Benny Florentino and Jerry Mayhew, Juan Podmore, a lot of those guys are booked up pretty solid because they've been around a while. They have a lot of repeat clientele. But if you're having trouble finding a guide and you want to go with someone, I would try Oliver and I at Big Bass Dreams on Instagram. I got another report from Kieran Murphy, young guy who follows the report, and I appreciate you watching. He was fishing down off Carlsbad the other day. He got a 10-pound calico bass. I know a lot of people say 10-pound calico bass. You're like, I don't know. This one was 26 inches long, and I've seen a couple of 10-pounders that always at or over that 26-inch mark and have to have some girth, and this one certainly did. He got on a 3/4-inch swim jig and a homemade swim bait that he poured himself. He was out there on his, with his parents in their 15-foot Calaboogie skiff. So, good job, Kieran. He says he'll keep giving me reports as he fishes throughout the year here. So I look forward to hearing more from him. And again, if any of you guys have something to report or photos you'd like to share, you know, you can contact me at any of the places I mentioned before, and I'm always happy to include you. Down south, so the wide open sand bass fishing we had up here is over, but the wide open sand bass fishing is now happening down off San Diego. The new seaport has been doing half days. They've been loading up AM, PM, and twilight trips. My friend Danny Erickson and his family were back down there and caught a bunch of them again. I didn't grab any pictures of that, but the nice grade of sand bass down there. The boats are still seeing some yellowtail, calico bass. You know, you always ever shot on the nice halibut when they're fishing down there in that zone. So good fishing for those guys. Hopefully that keeps up for a few more weeks. And so in the southern zone here, the offshore fishing's been tough. It seems like all the fish are up, you know, above the east end of Cat and east end of Clemente, other than a little bit of yellowfin on the beach along the coast. It's not enough that the full day boats are struggling. You know, you find patties, but they're not a lot. There's no volume of yellowfin down there yet. It's just been really tough fishing. So a lot of those boats have been fishing the Coronados, which has just been biting gangbusters here for weeks. And earlier this week, I think the San Diego had like 86 yellows, and they're nice ones. And the Liberty's been going down there. But that's been the biggest gangbang of all time. You know, it rivals the one we had, the 150 during El Nino. But I talked to Oliver. He had a charter down there, and or might have just gone fun fishing down there. I don't know. But he said it was very slow fishing yesterday, and there was only 40 boats on it. Only. When you say there's only 40 boats, I would imagine there were several hundred boats there prior. But some people are saying, you know, it's a water temp drop, conditions are off, things like that. Who knows? I mean, it's a lot of yellowtail being caught in one zone for a very long time. Maybe they went through all the bait that was in there and moved off somewhere else. Might have to be relocated by the boats. Might still be there. Maybe conditions will improve tomorrow and they'll bite again. Might be because we're coming on a new moon, those fish move. If you think back to that 2015 El Nino, or 2016 or whatever it was, the yellowtail bites on the 150 and everywhere else were very cyclical with the moon cycle. And a lot of times on the full or the new moon, those fish would travel in or out, and that might be happening now. Or it might just be a down day. I guess we'll never know. Well, we will know once they, if they start biting again. But yeah, that's about it. So your best bet to catch tuna right now is to, instead of, if you want to go on an overnight trip or a day and a half trip, you're better off going to Long Beach or 22nd Street Landing. The reverse full day and reverse day and a half trips up there give you more nighttime fishing opportunity, which is your best bet on a sport boat. Private boaters, I'd watch the weather. I know there's a lot of fish up here, so you don't need to be in the middle of that big bunch of sport boats trying to pick off foamers, because when all those boats start driving over each other, those bluefin don't tend to be up. You're better chance you can find an area by yourself. You don't need to be where every fish in the ocean is. You can find a little area you can work by yourself, maybe a little further south, maybe inside, maybe outside, and just look for conditions and try and be in the right place on the tide. Find birds and bait prior to the tide. On the tide, there's a good chance you might see some fish there, and you have a much better chance of catching them if you do it when just by yourself, without competing with other boats, and certainly without competing with the chumming ability of the sport boats. So that's about it. I'm hoping I feel better. Hoping to fish maybe Saturday or Sunday this week, and get back to my regular schedule after that. But I hope you guys have a great weekend, and good luck if you fish.